Good night. Welcome to Legalize this second day of March 2022. 2025, sorry. Tonight we expect, I would say, a special guest with unique qualifications. That guest should be with us a few minutes' time. Welcome to you, Simeon. Good night.
Hi, buenas noches, and good night, everyone. Welcome, sir.
Yes. But I just want to recognize the sponsors of this program before we start. Gen Professional Solutions, Inc., Gem FM carrying the program on FM radio out of Canada, and Grenada Technical and Allied Workers Union, GTAU.
Attention all workers, your health and safety at work are critical. At Grenada Technical and Allied Workers Union, we are dedicated to ensuring you have a safe and secure work environment. If you encounter unsafe conditions or are involved in an accident, take immediate actions. Report it to the company, your shop steward, and make sure it reaches your union. Your health and safety is a priority, and a strong union means a strong voice for your rights. Don't wait. Address concerns right away and protect your well-being. For a safer workplace and a better quality of life, stand with the Grenada Technical and Allied Workers Union. Together, we can create a safer, healthier work environment for everyone.
Thank you. Simeon, I once again read your articles in this week newspaper. The newspapers, because we write for all three of them.
Thank you.
Yes. And the program last week was quite lively. What are your views on it? I saw you posted a question in the airline. I don't know if you want to elaborate just before we get into with the guest tonight.
Yeah, the program last week was very interesting, especially the views taken by the gentleman from, I think he's original from Trinidad, the gentleman that we brought in, the lawyer. You know, a very interesting stuff. He seemed to be a very brilliant guy, but he uses too much obscenities to express his views. If he can just tone down the obscenity and be clear and precise and deal with the issues, deal with the jump and, you know, and most and so on, everybody would understand and would be, you know, he seemed authentic to the cause. So that I thought was that more or less that's what most people got out of the program. The dirty words, the KKK, the that, you know, that's what most people get out of the program, not what the substance was. You see? And this week now we are having a look at President Trump's immigration executive orders on the issue of vaccine mandates. That's another very interesting one, you see, because if you remember that President Trump, when he was president, I think in the first time around in 2018, around that time with the coronavirus, he was a man that got the COVID-19 virus, you know, and he was a man who got it. So now, you know, his position about you know, no vaccine for immigrants, no vaccine is required. It's an excellent position, but it's something that you have to, when you're regulating this thing, you have to be very careful. You know, we want everybody to travel to the US. Yes, immigrants or whatever.
Simeon, my reference was both to the program last week.
Yeah, I spoke about it already.
The result of the case in St. Vincent.
Yeah, I spoke about it already. I said what most people take out was the obscenities, not the issues. Yeah, the issues they didn't really.
No. I'm speaking about the program with Dr. Alexis.
Oh, that was that was a different one with yes, Dr. Alexis and August Ferguson again. Very interesting stuff. The two long men, you could see why they are cases, you know, king councils, because they were so clear
Test.
as to the issues that that's the first time I really understood the issue in St. Vincent, and the idea of the workers' cause. I was wondering, we had a similar situation as you here, where workers were being asked to come to work. No one seemed to be, you don't seem to care much about whether they have COVID or they are living in a house with people who have COVID and might catch it and pass it on to everyone and so on. And people with underlying conditions can die, and that could affect the whole workplace, and not just one person, but a lot of people could be struck down. So you must take that into consideration. All that has to be taken into consideration, and not just say, come to work, come to work, come to work. And to take it to courts and winning. Yes, you win, I think, the first round, but in the second round, I can't see how you could, when you go to the Privy Council, how you could win that thing, So it's a lot of important information.
Yes, so let me just welcome our guest, Attorney at Law Roland G. Ottley, who is based in the US. He is with us tonight, and I expect that this will be a very important program. As you know, Simeon, we'll try to go back some of the ground that we went over 2 weeks ago in the program where you spoke of earlier. So welcome, Mr. Ottley.
Thank you, Mr. Layne, and your guest. Thank you, all the listeners out there. I'm hoping that I can provide you with important, useful immigration information and insight. Thank you for having me.
Yes. So firstly, I noticed from reading your profile that you have expertise both in the medical field and in the legal field.
Yes, that's correct. I have been a physician assistant since 1989. I worked predominantly in surgery and different subspecialties of surgery. And I also am a practicing an attorney in New York City.
Okay. What exactly is the role of a physician assistant?
Well, physician assistants have evolved over the years. Back in the 60s, we were an extension of the physician, and basically the physician would direct and control what we did with the patients on their behalf. As it evolved, we as physician assistants and our competitors, nurse practitioners, have been able to garner a large amount of independence and autonomy in how we deal with the patients. And depending on the individual physician assistant's skills and knowledge, some physician assistants can actually do more than others in different areas. I like surgery, and so I could operate with the docs on the different kind of surgeries, brain surgery, neck, chest, abdomen, arteries, general surgery. Those are the kind of things that I've been involved in over the years and taking care of really sick patients. I just love doing these two things. It gives me immediate gratification with some things like surgery, and in the legal field, it gives you great gratification, although it may take a bit longer. Mr. Layne.
So you
I have a
quick physician assistant.
Yeah, I've been doing that for quite many years. I also teach students. I have physician assistants.
36 years.
Yeah, I also teach physician assistant students, and show them the things that they need to build on to become really good physician assistants. And I encourage them to do so.
Mhm. So you never decided to you didn't decide to go further and become a full-time physician just doing that alone.
No, because my life experiences didn't lead me in that direction. One of the important reasons why I became a physician assistant is because when I was about 18 years old in high school, I wasn't seeing my grandmother for a number of weeks. She was in the hospital. No one would really tell me what was going on. I went there one day and I saw her in such pain. I have yet to see another patient who was showing me that amount of pain that she displayed. I was so shocked I had to leave. Another time in Germany, when I was in Germany, this is before I had done these other things. This is what really got me started. I was in Germany, I was working. I got into a little fender bender. The Germans at that time, they were against Americans being there. Many of their institutions were off limits to Americans. They didn't want us there. So I got into this accident and they had me, go through this whole process. I went to the courthouse. I saw a first judge. The judge said I could go home. The next one said no. The immigration officer wasn't there. And they locked me up for like 3 to 4 months. And I had to leave Germany. I went to St. Vincent and I came back, and those experiences shaped what I did later on. I went to become a physician assistant because after coming back from Germany, I realized, I wanted to really do something. So I said, well, I'll get a bachelor's degree as a physician assistant. A friend of mine informed me of this. And then after I got my bachelor's degree, then I would apply to law school, which is what I did. And, been practicing both professions and really enjoying it.
So in America, just remind us, you need to have a first degree before you can get into law school.
Oh yeah, you got to get your bachelor's degree.
Okay, and your bachelor as a physician assistant was sufficient to get you to law school.
Oh yeah, because the amount of credits needed for my bachelor's degree was more than some of the other schools. 140 credits would be sufficient. Mine was like about 170 credits. We had to, we had to take more credits. We didn't get any credit for that. We didn't get any additional degree for that, but we had to get those that amount of credits. So it's not like it was something easy. It was actually more difficult.
Okay, you mentioned St. Vincent. Tell us about St. Vincent and your connection with St. Vincent.
Well, I'm originally born in St. Vincent in Chateau-Belair, and then I immigrated to the United States about the age of 6 years old. So I'm not really a Vincentian, because Vincentian's like, oh, you're so young, you don't really have any boy days, you don't remember. So they basically tell me I'm American. So, basically I too am an immigrant, and, I want to help those in the immigrant community because this is a very stressful time for everyone in that community.
Okay, so before we go into that though, I'm just interested, given your the mixed disciplines of medicine and law. I noticed that one of your areas of practice is vaccine injury. I don't know how that served you I don't know your views on the issue of the vaccine mandates, the efficacy of the vaccine. I don't know your views, but both as somebody involved in the field of medicine and somebody involved in the field of law, I will be interested in hearing your views. First, as somebody involved in the field of medicine, the efficacy, the usefulness of taking the vaccine, the COVID-19 vaccine, the different variants.
Well, vaccines have their negative aspect, and a lot of times people are pushing more of the negative aspect of the vaccines, but the vaccines do save lives and prevent morbidity and mortality, maiming and permanent conditions and so forth. But yes, like a lot of the other medicines that we use, they do have complications and side effects that may occur. Now, that's not to say that we shouldn't use them, but you have a lot of conspiracy theories going around now, especially going back and looking at how fast we were able to develop the COVID vaccine. Okay, maybe people were not really following some of the things occurring in the scientific aspect of the vaccine area, so they're not really versed in the amount of technology and advancements that have occurred to allow something like this to happen, especially when the world focus is to get it done and you're competing against different countries. So it was an international effort to come together to produce the COVID vaccine. Now, in speaking specifically about vaccine injury, now in the United States, there is a vaccine table that describes the known symptoms, side effects of a particular vaccine, and it describes the documentation that needs to be established so that you could fit into that particular vaccine injury. And if the vaccine is on the vaccine table, right, then in that case, there would be a particular procedure that the injured person would be able to go through to get compensation for that. And that is within the statute, and it provides the person, the injured party, with cost for the litigation of this injury, attorney's fees. So whether they win or lose, they still are provided with the cost for bringing the case, and they can get substantial sums of money where their injury has been well established and documented. Now, the judges that deal with this, they deal with this on a regular basis, so they know, the values, the procedures, and everything that goes along with this. But in terms of vaccines, I'm not really sure. I know you said last week you had a program that spoke about a vaccine mandate in St. Vincent. Is that not correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. However, here in the United States, the Trump administration is anti-vaccine. JFK is anti-vaccine. So they're actually taking money away from states that are trying to impose vaccine mandates. So these things are not going to be really supported here in the United States at this time. However, if someone is injured by a particular vaccine that's on the table, they should know that they can get compensation for this. I want to say one more thing about this. It is true that you cannot sue the vaccine companies unless there's some kind of fraud or something like that. But if they're just doing their regular business, you cannot sue the vaccine companies. That's why the vaccine system for vaccine injury and in vaccine injury court was established, and there the funding for that comes from each sale of the vaccine. There's a small like a tax that applies to it that is placed into the fund for the vaccine injuries, and that's where the money comes from to pay for these vaccine injuries. So that's going to be there for whoever is injured from known vaccines. But for right now, I don't think vaccine is a topic that is really a hot topic right now.
Yeah, but let me just get you clear. know it may not be a hot topic in the US, but because of my experience in the Caribbean, and in particular in that case in St. Vincent, you say that the various COVID-19 vaccines would have been on that list you speak about?
No, it wasn't on the
The
list
team
yet.
has they're not there as yet. So if
No.
someone alleges and can establish that they were injured as a result of taking it, do they have any recourse?
Well, that was the vaccine injury compensation program was what I was talking about in vaccine court. All right,
Yeah, so no, you said that the vaccine has to be on, as you said, the table. So I'm asking if the various COVID-19 vaccines applied to this compensation scheme that you speak of.
no,
Yeah. Not as it. So in other words, if somebody alleges and they can establish that they got injured as a result of taking one of these vaccines, they don't have any recourse in the law. Only action.
no, well, not okay. You're talking about the COVID vaccine. I'm talking about all the other types of vaccines. There are a number of other vaccines besides COVID that people would be taking. Those other older ones would be on the table.
They understand, but I'm focusing because one of the arguments in the St. Vincent case was that, listen, you are, in a sense, compelling somebody to take something or saying, if you don't take it, you'll lose your livelihood. But there is no avenue for redress if that person takes it and they suffer injury, because as you said, all vaccines have side effects. And a vaccine may affect me more than it would affect you and vice versa. Yeah? I don't know if I'm making sense because I'm not into, I don't have any expertise in medicine.
Yeah, well, okay. Well, I mean, some of the legal arguments why people may refuse to take the vaccine are for health reasons and for religious reasons. Okay, those would be two of the reasons why a person would refuse to take the vaccine. Now, if I don't know if they address that in St. Vincent. Now, since this is a work requirement, right? Employees usually have workers' compensation insurance. Okay. I don't know if something like that would fall under the coverage of a workers' compensation. I don't know if they have that in St. Vincent. But those would be the types of arguments that one would make for not taking the vaccine. Okay. If the person has a particular allergy or whatever, and the vaccine may trigger that might be another reason. A doc might say, no. And then you have to look at also the policy. Why do they want you to take this vaccine? Is it because if you get sick, they're going to have to pay for all of your care? Is it that you're going to spread this to other employees? You have to look at all of these policy issues. It's not really that straightforward and simple, as you may put it in terms of a situation, because of the circumstances and the context in which you're talking about, vaccine injury. I mean, the person hasn't demonstrated any injury.
I think that the purpose. No, but the purpose of the one that the case arose from was to keep the workplace safe. So it was being said that unless you take the vaccine, you're not permitted to enter the workplace. Yeah. So the question was from a different direction, though. I was just asking if with the COVID-19 vaccine in the US, if there's any compensation scheme, because I don't think, well, certainly there was no compensation scheme. That was one of the complaints that the employees had in certain Caribbean countries, both Grenada and St. Vincent.
Yeah, they would. Those would have been the complaints that employees would have with the vaccine that early out. But to be honest with you, I'm not certain if they've applied it to the vaccine table, and what kind of particular symptoms they would say they would compensate for. You see, that's a whole other thing. You see, so
Okay.
those are all things that one would have to look at.
Okay. Simeon, do you have any questions for it?
Yeah, you certainly have a question that I want to ask now. Now, what would be the implications of the executive order passed by Donald Trump not requiring immigrants to be vaccinated against COVID-19? What implications does that have?
Okay, let me understand your question again.
Now, an executive order was passed, okay, requiring immigrants coming into the US, etc. Requiring that there was no need to take the vaccine anymore, okay? Previously, once you have to go to the US, even Grenada, you had to take a COVID-19 vaccine to come here. But of course, as you are aware, the situation has changed a lot. There are very few cases of COVID nowadays. Okay, so what would be any implication if somebody, for instance, not take it and they go to the US and then they spread it, and so what are there any implications of that? What implications are there?
Well, I mean,
in other words, what are the pros and cons in taking the vaccine? Okay, now there are certain arguments favor mandating immigrants to take COVID-19 vaccine in the US. Okay, it can reduce the risk of serious illness, and if there is less serious illnesses, that would mean fewer deaths.
Let them follow Simeon.
Yes, please. Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's hard to really understand the implications behind it. What I do know, as I told you, Trump and JFK are not supporting vaccinations. So for them to remove that requirement.
Specifically about the COVID, you're speaking about not supporting vaccination, specifically about with regard to COVID, or in general.
You're saying for wait, state the question again. Let me make sure I understand what you're asking.
No, I'm just trying to clarify, because you say Trump and JFK do not support vaccinations. So I'm asking if in general they don't support it, or if it is just in relation to the COVID-19 and its relatives.
No, they're not supportive of vaccines in general. It's not just COVID vaccine.
Yeah, I think so. The SARS also, polio vaccine. JFK was totally against the polio vaccine, which is a serious thing as that. The SARS, hepatitis A, all these vaccines. He was against it before he became Secretary of State. Now I think he has relent and changed his position on these.
Well, it's going to be both a political thing and a scientific thing, and it's going to also depend on how much of the progress in vaccine development the Trump administration is going to interfere with and restrict and limit. Okay, remember when George Bush was in office, he was like, we don't want to do any cloning and this, that, and the other. He may not want these things to be done. So his supporters and the politicians supporting him will basically follow that.
Okay. But in your if I may ask, and of course you don't have to give any specifics, in your medical practice, I guess you'd have been exposed to the whole issue of the vaccination program at that time. Am I correct on that?
If I've been exposed to various, yes.
Okay, yeah, okay. I'm just asking. I guess what were your views? I'm trying to extrapolate from what you said earlier that there are both positives and negatives with regard to the any particular vaccine, and in particular the COVID-19 vaccine, given the circumstances in which it was developed.
Well, I'm not sure the question that you're asking me, because you're asking me if I've been exposed to different viruses that could cause disease.
No, the connection is probably bad because. Let me see if
No,
I
but
can go. Just give me. We have problems with the connection.
okay. My intern was calling me. I'm trying to see if I could get him to log on. He should have his info. I'm not sure why.
Yes, we have problems with the. Bentley, can you assist at all in terms of the connection?
No, I wouldn't be able to.
Okay, it's just the internet.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. Yes, sorry for the interruption. Okay, I think this is just a timely moment once again to recognize the sponsors of this program: GEL Professional Solutions, GMFM, carrying the program on FM radio out of Canada, and Grenada Technical and Allied Workers Union, GTAL.
Attention all workers, your health and safety at work are critical. At Grenada Technical and Allied Workers Union, we are dedicated to ensuring you have a safe and secure work environment. If you encounter unsafe conditions or are involved in an accident, take immediate actions. Report it to the company, your shop steward, and make sure it reaches your union. Your health and safety is a priority, and a strong union means a strong voice for your rights. Don't wait. Address concerns right away and protect your well-being. For a safer workplace and a better quality of life, stand with the Grenada Technical and Allied Workers Union. Together, we can create a safer, healthier work environment for everyone.
Yes, it seems as though we just have an interruption with our guests.
Can I summarize in the meantime what was said so far until
Okay.
the guests come up? Basically, you all are looking at the reasons why people may refuse to take the vaccine. And as the guest said, for health reasons, religious reasons, they may have a particular allergy which may trigger underlying conditions such as hypertension, diabetes, and so old age. All these are some of the reasons why people may refuse to take the vaccine. On the other hand, he said, unless you do not take the vaccine in terms of your work, you will not be permitted to enter the workplace. Employees felt that there was no compensation if they take the vaccine and feel sick. Okay, so they.
Okay, we don't have our guest back as yet, but his assistant, who he had promised to bring on with him, is on. So if we could just welcome, good night. Okay, we also have Mr. Ottley back, and your assistant is also here.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess
The
maybe
question
he
I
has some.
was just trying to get at, based on your experience, would you say that there were both positives and negatives? Well, possible. Now, let me rephrase it. Would you say that whether the vaccine will be positive or negative depended on a particular individual? In other words, it could be negative for me and it could be positive for you.
Okay, well, I mean, you have to understand that a vaccine would be a type of medication therapy that the Food and Drug Administration would be regulating, and the vaccine would have to have evidence to support that it is both safe and is effective. Okay, and we saw its effectiveness in how it was used to treat COVID. However, there were some rare cases of some very bad side effects of the medication. And those were occurring in such a small margin that, it's not truly negligible, but given how the vaccine was able to be effective for so many other millions of people, you have to also take that into consideration.
Yeah, so what I really get at is whether, because the case that we dealt with last week, it was an issue of a mandate. You say to somebody, you take it or you lose your livelihood. Yeah? What I really get at is whether one could argue that there is room for individual choice in these circumstances, given that for a particular individual, it could end up being negative to them in the not so negligible cases.
Well, I addressed that. Okay, well, I addressed that before in my statement. As I told you before, the vaccine and the mandate for the vaccine can be challenged. I don't know what challenges are available to someone in St. Vincent. I'm practicing law in Brooklyn, New York. Okay, so I can't speak to their specific laws and regulations, policies, their practices over the years. It's a lot of those things that would have to be taken into consideration as factors. But in the United States, as I said before, people could try to refuse the vaccine based on religious reasons, based on medical reasons. I gave you one as an allergy to a particular component of the vaccine. Okay, if their particular illness may hinder it, a doctor may state so. Those are ways that you could do it to avoid having to take the vaccine. Okay, now if I don't know what else they have down there that they could use, or if they could even use those that I described.
Okay. Yes, I think you have answered my question. Simeon, do you have any other question for him before we go on to the immigration part?
Well, I think he has covered most of what I would like to hear him cover, so perhaps we can move on, because the positives, he has made it quite clear. Okay, it has been effective for many people, and the negative, according to him, the side effects of the medication, which you use to treat the virus. So these are two of the major positives and the negatives.
Okay, yes. Mr. Ottley, the major part of the program we really want to dedicate to the immigration issue. This first part was really just to lean on your expertise in medicine, and given that mix of medicine and law, and just because we had that case coming out of St. Vincent quite recently, a case that is headed all the way to the Privy Council, and the Privy Council being the high school for the Grenadines. And you know, the lawyers who were involved with it really viewed it as, or the claimants who were involved viewed it as an issue of the individual rights, the human rights, to the right to decide that whether they take something or they don't take it, you know. So I was just seeking to lead on that unique mix of medicine and law that you carry, those skills. So yes, in terms of the immigration, of course, the executive orders unleashed quite a bit of fear among Caribbean people, I understand, in the US, and even some Caribbean people back home here in the Caribbean, both those persons who may have green cards and travel back and forth, or those who have relatives in the US, obviously became quite concerned. There was the fear of having loads of Caribbean people, including Grenadians, being sent back, and you know, all the things, all the social and other factors, social and other negatives, social and other consequences and implications that flow from that. So I don't know if, as briefly as you could, if you could just summarize the orders as they are relevant to Caribbean immigrants and people who would like to come to the US.
Well, what specifically did you say that you would like me to summarize?
The contents of the executive orders, the recent executive orders, in particular as they relate to, touch on, affect, concern people of Caribbean origin who are in the US as immigrants, or those people in Grenada who may be looking forward to travel to the US.
Okay, well, I mean, I look at it from perspective of anyone coming from particular countries, and they're all going to be pretty much facing the same things.
Okay.
There are a number of executive orders that the Trump administration put into place, some on the day of his inauguration and immediately the next day, and it continues. And when my paralegal intern comes back, he has a presentation about one that's very problematic in terms of the undocumented immigrants having to register with the United States government or face criminal and civil penalties that may include deportation, because that would be a separate ground on a criminal on a criminal level for deportation. So what's happening now is the ramping up of the different components of immigration enforcement, and restrictions on immigration relief, elimination of humanitarian discretionary relief, greater, more robust external enforcement in the form of military and military weaponry, because one of the executive orders to declare the southern border a state of emergency allows the president to incorporate military on the borders to prevent illegal entry. And even where there are gang members from Mexico trying to still do human trafficking and other drug trafficking, Mexico is also complaining about this aggressive enforcement from the United States at the border. And, you know, it's a problem, and we have to continue to monitor the situation to see how it's unfolding. Now, they remain in Mexico for asylum seekers, cutting off refugee applications. I mean, he just canceled a whole bunch of appointments at CBP for people who already had scheduled appointments. I mean, he's even doing things to increase detention capacity. So there are a lot of things that are going on, all of which are causing more and more fear and confusion in the immigration community. And immigrants really have to seek out the proper and accurate source of information and not get scammed during this whole process. And they need to get this information so that they don't deprive themselves of benefits that they could legally obtain that would not interfere with their immigration status. We experienced that during Trump's first term. Okay, he's pushing the bounds of the executive power, and in many ways, one of them being the more prominent one to try to use executive order to eliminate birthright citizenship. Now, the twist that he's putting on it is he wants to prevent birthright citizenship for women who are illegal in the United States. They don't have a valid visa or valid immigration status. And the child is not fathered by a US citizen or a lawful permanent resident, or someone who does have a legal immigration status, like a non-immigrant visitor. So that person does have a proper immigration status, or someone under temporary protected status, like for Haitians, Venezuelans, Nicaraguans. They all have some form of TPS because the state of their country is in such bad shape that they allow them to stay in the United States under TPS and to also work. It doesn't lead to a green card, but it avoids them having to deal with whatever kind of tragedy and persecution they would face in their home country. Now,
So let me just get it clear. As the law stands presently, if somebody is born in the US, then they automatically a US citizen.
Yeah, that's what the 14th Amendment says.
Right. And we say that, so for example, somebody leaves Grenada, a woman leaves Grenada, she goes to the US, whether they have a green card or as a visitor, whatever, and the baby is born there, then that baby is a US citizen from birth.
Yeah, that baby's a US citizen from birth. Baby's
Right.
born on.
We say that Trump is trying to get rid of that.
Yeah, he is trying with this executive order.
Right. And we say that you're saying the spin he's putting on it is to say that applies to people, women who are in the US illegally, and the father of the child is a non-American, one. But I didn't get the other two categories you spoke of.
No,
So
there's
for
just two
example,
categories. There are just two categories. There's one where they are unlawfully in the United States. Okay,
Yeah.
maybe they came over as a visitor, they overstayed their visa. The day after
Right.
they overstayed their visa, they start accumulating unlawful presence. So they're unlawfully in the United States.
Right.
So if they get pregnant and they have a baby for someone who's not a US citizen or not a lawful permanent resident, then they are not able to say that their baby is a U.S. citizen. So that's one.
Right. So that's right. Good.
The second one, the woman does have a valid immigration status. It's either a non-immigrant visa for visiting and pleasure, okay, your B1, B2 visa. So that's a legitimate immigration status. It expires at a particular time. You can extend it. Also with TPS, that's another status, temporary protected status. Okay, so even if a woman is under those types of protected immigration status, if the child that they're bearing is not fathered by a person who's a U.S. citizen or a lawful permanent resident, then Trump is saying their baby should not be granted automatic U.S. citizenship from birth on U.S. soil.
Okay. And he's trying to do that by executive order.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so I see your assistant, your intern is here now, and which specific topic you wanted to speak on in the immigration field?
Yes. Tian, are you prepared to give your presentation?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so all right, Tian is in New York City Technical College studying paralegal studies, and he's in the program and he wants to establish a legal career, and he enjoys immigration law, and he's done the research for the Trump's mandate for undocumented immigrants to register with the U.S. government. Now, this is a law that goes back from 1940, before World War II, and this is what he's re-implementing. Now, there's another law. From the Immigration and Nationality Act, INA 245I, which would allow those in the United States who have entered without inspection. So immigration officers did not admit them into the United States, and they don't have any documentation of their entry. That law would have allowed them to file and get their citizenship. To get their green card if they also paid $1,000 surcharge. Now, that would be a way to increase some revenue, because Trump wants to have a gold card where rich individuals who could invest $5 million in the United States can file that and get a visa to then get a lawful permanent resident status. See, but he's not interested in allowing, immigrants in a much broader category of immigrants to be able to pay $1,000 or more to get a green card to enter into the United States, or to prevent them from being deported from the United States. So anyway, much of what Tian is going to be talking about would be about the registration of undocumented individuals who did not obtain entry and exit pass from the Customs and Border Protection Agency. And so those immigrants are here without being inspected, and they will get deported from the United States, because even if they get married to a U.S. citizen, the fact that they're here without being inspected will prevent them from getting their green card. So it's a serious matter. So Tia, go ahead and give the presentation.
Okay. My name is Tian Farron. As you know, I'm a student at City Tech, New York City College of Technology, and I'm going to start my presentation now. On Tuesday, February 26th, the Trump administration announced that illegal immigrants who are 14 years old or older are required to register with the federal government. The new policy marks a significant shift in the administration approach to immigration enforcement, intensifying the focus on undocumented individuals residing in the United States. The decision has sparked widespread debate, with critics arguing that it could lead to further marginalization and fear among immigrant communities. Borders is necessary for national security and immigration control. When I first heard of the topic, but in my research, I asked myself, what laws or take the requirement? I found that the laws and policies supporting the requirement are 8 USC Section 1302 Alien Registration Act of 1940 that requires non-citizens over the age of 14 who are offense in the U.S. for more than 30 days to register with the government. 8 USC Section 1306A established penalties for non-compliance, making failure to register a federal misdemeanor punishable by up to 6 months in jail and or fine of up to $1,000. 8 USC Section 1308 requires registration non-citizens to carry proof of their registration.
I don't want to interrupt you. I don't want to interrupt you, Tian, but that's a 1940 law you're speaking about.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. So I just trying to clarify, and I don't want to interrupt you, but there was that law way back in 1940, but are we saying that it was mostly unenforced up until recently?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, well, yeah, he's using this law. He's pushing the boundaries of his powers. He's not following court rulings. So we're seeing a lot of aberration in the government here. It's a lot of aberration. I mean, we're just talking the immigration aspect of it. But Tian, I think you're gonna have to sort of condense the presentation, because I understand where you're going with it, but you could explain it as to what you gathered from all the information and what you really think that it's going to do in terms of how it's going to affect immigrants.
Okay. I'm gonna do that right now.
Yes, so I mean, we know there are many laws on books, and I suspect that goes for every country. So, for example, in Grenada here, there is a law against Sunday trading, but nobody enforces that. Absolutely nobody.
Okay, well, you can't look at this thing in isolation. Okay, you can't look at it in isolation, because let's say, okay, if now I want to distinguish undocumented. Okay, undocumented immigrants. Maybe the term is kind of used loosely, but true undocumented aliens are those who were smuggled into the United States. There's no trace of any documentation that allowed them to come into the United States. Okay? So essentially that's what you would get. Okay? Now when you look at those individuals that have applied for a visa, okay, they have applied with the government and they obtained a visa. The visa says you have to leave on this particular date, or you have to apply before that date to extend it. So those individuals are not truly undocumented. They're documented to an extent. Immigration knows that they're here. I don't know if they would know if they actually left, but they do know that they were here because they could see their entry to get into the United States. If they go to the CBP website, they can get their entry pass and they could see their entries that they came and when they left. Okay? So you have that. But let's say, for however the reason could be, because if the person is truly undocumented, it's going to be very difficult for them to be able to get a green card. Okay, so now that may be one hurdle that's having them experience a lot of difficulty. And then when you add a crime to that, now immigration has additional reason to just detain you if they can find a facility to detain you. And because you are detained, they can expedite your removal from the United States. Those people who are able to stay in the United States longer are those who are not detained. And they usually have some way of obtaining their green card somehow, unless they're truly entering the United States without being inspected. Okay? In
Yes,
fairness to the immigrant. Yeah.
I was just trying to clarify. Under the 1940 legislation, it was not a crime. It was just an administrative matter, or was it a crime?
No, I mean that's a different time frame. You know, it's way back then. Things were different back then. You know, this is
No,
this
I'm
is
just asking. No, I'm only asking if the legislation he's trying to enforce now, did that legislation describe being overstaying your time or entering without documentation? Did it describe that as a crime? And he's only trying to enforce that now. Or is he trying now to criminalize what before was just an administrative matter?
yeah, I think the latter. That's what he's trying to do.
The-
You know? Yeah,
Okay.
because it gives them a little bit more leverage to deport you.
Yeah, I understand this.
You know, that's that I believe is the goal here. That's why I brought up that section 245I. He's not, saying, okay, well, this is one particular way that, if you're here without inspection, you could get your green card. Okay, so I'm giving you this route that you could use. So either you use that or you don't register and, you violate the law and we catch you and we deport you because you could pay whatever, even if he says, some additional payment of $2,000, because some in a particular sector, farming, construction, maybe their employers would be willing to pay for them to be able to get their green card in that way. But he's not even giving immigrants that possibility. All right, Tian, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, go ahead now.
Okay, so if this is enforced, it will impact immigrants' communities. Would likely avoid public spaces, government official offices, hospital, and schools due to fear of detection. Past experience such as NSEERS program show that these policies cause panic and confusion even among illegal present immigrants. Increase in immigration detention and deportation. The government could use registration as a tool for mass deportation. The American Immigration Council notes that the registration would create a new category of criminalized immigrants, giving ICE more grounds for arrest. Legal challenges and court battles, as in Arizona v. United States, for civil rights groups could file lawsuits, potentially leading to delays or the Supreme Court ruling striking down the policy. The Trump administration may face injunction or executive orders from future administration revising the policies.
Right. So,
Okay,
sorry.
all right, these policies that he's talking about, he condensed it quite a bit, but you're talking about self-incrimination. These are constitutionally protected rights. Okay, so equal protection, due process. These are the kind of constitutional rights that this registration process is potentially violating. Okay, discrimination and targeting. These are the things that are going to occur from the implementation of this type of, registration of aliens with the government. So It's going
Okay,
to
so let me
face
just get this.
strong
Let me just-
opposition.
Right. Let me just get this because we have viewers and followers, and I just wanted to break it down as. So my questions are really aimed at breaking things down. I just wanted to appreciate that. You say that compelling someone who is unregistered, an illegal immigrant, compelling them to register with the government is a form of compelling them to incriminate themselves.
Well, then they in those particular circumstances that they're going to likely stop someone. Why are you even stopping them? What was the grounds for stopping them? Okay, and then are you going to now? This is not a U.S. citizen. This is an alien. Okay, understand the context here. The United States government has plenary power to impose immigration laws. Okay, not the president, but the laws from the legislature. Okay, they can have you do whatever, but the president also has some power in immigration policies, and those agencies are under his branch of the government. Now, how he implements them, whether it's constitutional or not, will face challenges. These things faced challenges before, and they will likely face challenges again. And that's what it's going to be. Now, when someone gets arrested for a criminal offense, they're offered an attorney to represent them. Now, in that case, that might be a state attorney representing them for that particular crime, but that crime is a federal crime for registration. The state doesn't have such a crime, so that case would go in federal government, and I'm not sure how, if they're going to look at it as some form of a deportation, just a criminal offense. You're going to be in court, and how exactly it's going to be implemented, how it's going to work. So, but the self-incrimination is a likely component of this kind of process. It's just going to really matter as to how they actually go about implementing it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. It has been said that one of the ways that an immigrant, illegal immigrant, can regularize their status is by getting married. Is that still an avenue open? A married an American citizen, is that still an avenue open?
Yes, it is.
It's still open. Mm-hmm. Okay, and also just to clarify, if an illegal immigrant has a child for an American citizen, that child is protected. Even if Trump succeeds, the child will be protected.
Yeah, in that case, the child would be able to still be a U.S. citizen even if Trump succeeds.
Okay. A West Indian, Grenadian, Vincentian, Trinidadian who is in the U.S. illegally, you're saying as the law is now, that person is required to register with the government?
Yes. Yes, that executive order was issued.
Right. Are there any protection that they could invoke prior to registration, at the time of registering, that can ease the situation?
Well, I don't know what challenge has been made to that executive order as yet, and if the executive order will actually go into play. So we have to wait and see. But some of the questions that you're asking, we're not really sure yet, because the order will be challenged. It's not like this is a an order that was never challenged before. As we said, it's a law from 1940. So it has been challenged successfully before, and that's why you don't have it. And as I was explaining, it has a number of constitutional or potential constitutional violations that can occur. So we'll have to see how it unfolds, and and how it's actually practiced, and how and who is predominantly affecting. So it's a lot of things that would come out of monitoring the law, which is what we'll have to do to see how the law would be challenged. Now, Obama deported somewhere close to 3,000 people, 3 million people, sorry. Okay? Trump wants to deport more than that. Now, we're not talking about people who were returned at the border. So in certain cases, Trump wants to utilize returning someone back to their country at the border as a form of deportation. That's an expedited deportation. The person is not having their day in immigration court. Okay? And he's trying to employ that predominantly so that the person who's being deported truly does not have their day in court. Their immigration rights that they supposed to have, they're not able to utilize. So all of these are additional problems that he's overstepping legal boundaries to do, and litigation will certainly ensue because of the way that he's conducting these immigration policies.
Okay. What challenges are faced by people who have green cards? Like many Caribbean people, some of them they have a green card, and they basically use it as a what do you say, a visa to go in and out. By that I mean they have a green card, but they stay out of they don't live in the US. They live in Grenada, St. Vincent, Dominica. They just go back and forth, maybe a few times a year. How would that kind of practice be affected by the new policies put in place by the Trump administration?
Well, they'll appreciate a problem if that's what they're doing, because from an immigration standpoint, if a lawful permanent resident is spending time outside of the United States more than 6 months, and they're working in that other country, they're doing other things to show that they have a permanent domicile in that country, then Trump administration would likely use that so much against them to argue that they've abandoned their lawful permanent resident status. Now, you can stay outside of the country for more than 6 months or 6 years, but it must be in a circumstance where you had no control over leaving that country and returning to the United States with your green card. Okay, but if you're doing this voluntarily, you probably will find at some point that the CBP, because you're coming and going legally, so they have records of your arrival and your departure, and they may look at your travel history and warn you of the potential of losing your immigration status, or to otherwise use a re-entry permit if you're going to stay out for that long a period of time. And even though you have that re-entry permit, because it is discretionary, they can revoke it at any time.
And the re-entry permit is what we refer to as the multiple entry visa, like a 10-year visa or a 5-year visa, as the case may
No,
be.
that's a different thing. You have the visas. You don't have to go and apply for the visa and so on. And each time you need to use the visa, they just stamp the visa. They give you the 6 months time, and you can travel with the visa. But if you're traveling after you get your green card, right? If you're traveling after that, and you 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 you're staying out for more than 6 months, okay? And whatever it is that you're doing in St. Vincent, you're not violating any laws. Maybe you're not paying taxes there, or whatever the situation may be. Because if you are paying taxes and working in St. Vincent or wherever, then you're basically saying that you live there, and especially if you're not filing taxes in the U.S. So it becomes a kind of tricky situation where you kind of have two areas, two countries where you have a domicile. And you would have to explain how and when and all of these other things. So that could become a complicated situation. Okay. But where you ask for a re-entry permit, you're telling the government that you're going to be, there for some extended period of time, whatever explanation you're going to give for why you need to spend so much time down there. And they'll give you the time, and then you should, come back to the US before that expires and refile for another one if you're going to spend, another 2 months. However, in doing that kind of situation, it then complicates your amount of physical presence in the United States if you're to then go from just being a green card holder to obtaining your US citizenship. So because you've been outside of the US for so many months, years, your physical presence requirements in the United States can't be met, so they could deny your citizenship on that ground.
Okay. I guess, well, you didn't spend much time in the Caribbean, but there is the well-known practice of members of family who may have achieved green card status or citizenship, sponsoring other relatives to come to the US as migrants. Is this likely to be affected by these new policies and the new environment, the new climate created by the
Well,
new
yes.
policies?
Well, yes.
Yeah.
I can't really speak to individual Caribbean countries. I'm speaking about immigration law broadly in terms of policies that are put into place. So it doesn't matter from where you're applying, you're going to have to contend with these new policies. It's not like if Trump has some specific policies for the Caribbean that I need to speak to and address. I'm not aware of that. And everyone's going to be subject to the same kind of restrictive kind of behavior. All right. Now, as I was pointing out before, in terms of relief to gain access into the United States, I believe that Mr. Layne, you and the audience should understand that a lot of the avenues that used to be available are being eliminated by the Trump administration. You do appreciate that. There was challenges.
Sorry, go ahead.
I gave you examples. Removing TPS from certain countries. Okay. Removing the temporary protected status, removing appointments for people with asylum seekers. Those are people who are being persecuted. They're risking their lives. Okay. The Remain in Mexico, the Remain in Mexico law that Trump put in place, those people who are seeking asylum and relief from persecution have to remain in Mexico. So the people who are persecuting them, they still have access to them while they're waiting for their application to be processed in the United States. And it does take a long time. Okay? They've canceled refugees. They're not taking in any refugees. These were other avenues for people to be able to come into the country to get their green cards. That's not happening. Those are being eliminated. People are being turned away from going to immigration court where they might be able to defend their case, where their family members or other members, other community members might have been able to assist them to help them to stay in the United States. Relief, he's bringing in old laws like this registration, but more recent laws that are beneficial, he won't implement those laws. Okay? Now, one of the things that I have not really heard much of, and it may be too early, is the public charge law. That law forced the applicant and their co-sponsors to provide a lot of personal information. And without that information, the person would not be able to get their green card. Now, prior to that implementation by the last Trump term, an applicant would have his spouse or his relative who's sponsoring him, once they have sufficient amount of money over the 125% poverty limit, that would be sufficient of an agreement with the government to allow the person to get their green card, because they're likely not going to be a person of public charge, depending on the government or state government for any assistance. Okay, that's what that agreement was. That's why.
By that, you say the person this would not be in a situation where the American government or a particular state has to provide for them.
No, they would either they're young, they could work. They have someone who is saying that if the person were to become to become dependent on the state, I will come in and take care of that person. That's what the affidavit of support is for. Okay, and it's not very intrusive. But the form that Trump had implemented before, and the way that he rolled out all of his executive orders and his immigration policies very aggressively, so he's going to continue with that same aggressive approach. And the applicants who are trying to get immigration benefits will certainly have to provide a lot more information, more intrusive types of information, be more detailed in their application, and submit sufficient evidence, sometimes even more evidence that they may require, just so that they would overcome the scrutiny of the adjudicators and the system to prevent aliens, whether it be from the Caribbean or from African or Asian community, from getting that green card.
Notice you did not mention Europeans. Any reason why?
Well, because Trump has shown a favoritism to, bringing in Europeans, and with Elon Musk there, he's telling them we need to get the best brains for the industries that we have, and you need to have a way to do that. I mean, and that's one of the problems that Trump is having with his mega supporters, and Elon Musk, and him wanting to bring immigrants in, and from their perspective, he's taking away jobs from Americans.
But some may say the brightest immigrants in the world are come from Asia.
Well, wherever they're coming from, Elon Musk wants them in the United States.
Yeah, I specifically asked if if there's any preference for Europeans in terms of either the shaping of the policies or the enforcement. Any comment on
Well,
that?
yeah. Well, he has a tendency to want to support, you know, white nationals from wherever to come into the United States. He doesn't want Mexicans coming in, and you know, he may not want other Asian or other African, you know, communities to come in, Caribbean communities to come in. I mean, you've heard the way the derogatory term that he used about those kind of countries, so you know full well what his position is.
I was about to ask also, you answered in part in terms of students, what it would mean for students, and I'm speaking for me about Caribbean students because that's where I'm from, that's where we're from. So I'm a bit Caribbean centric, but what would it mean in terms of students? Will it be more difficult to get our students to go to universities in the US now in this new climate?
Well, I don't know. I think it might be too early to really estimate that. We'd have to look and see how, how that's shaping up. It's a lot of stuff that requires monitoring and so forth. So, you know, if somebody's monitoring the difficulty of student visas after Trump administration, I mean, you know, they could speak on that research and let us know what it is. Now, one of the things there are monitors out there, and where Trump is saying there is some form of a mandate for amount of aliens that Trump is expecting to arrest from each one of these centers. Like he's looking for like 18,000 a day, okay, and to try to deport them from the United States by like whatever means he wants to use to remove them. Okay. Now he has that ambition. You know, is he going to be able to really effectuate that? And he has all of these other types of restrictions and mechanisms to hinder someone obtaining their green card, except for like those who are affluent, like he wants to have this gold card and other types of visas like that. And he's cutting off all of the other types of visas. He's not allowing people to come in. So it could be, and because of the immigration policies are the way that they are, he can discriminate. So, you know, we're talking when we're talking about discrimination from an alien perspective, it's like the government for aliens could do that. But for those people who are in the United States, and even though they may be aliens, because of their situation or circumstance, they may have a right to defend their case in immigration court. And if Trump could prevent as much of those individuals from having access to an immigration court to defend their removal, the more successful he's going to be in being able to remove and reject a whole lot more people. Now, understand, like I said before, it would be different because when Obama deported someone, they had their day in court. Trump is trying to do it without giving them their day in court. So all of these mechanisms that he's putting in place will help him to do so, help the agency to do so. He's given the agency, ICE has so much more autonomy in how they maneuver and where they go and what they do in terms of, you know, finding people to arrest and to deport.
Is there any what we call sunset on an executive policy, or is it a case that it's there until it's reversed by the next president or by the Congress?
Yeah, I think it would be by another president, but it also would depend, is the law going to go into place, you know? I mean, Obama put laws, executive orders to create ways um, for aliens, immigrants to obtain citizenship and to obtain a protected status. And certain courts disagreed and struck those down. The same thing is happening with Trump, and he's just going to keep on trying. So,
But outside of that, there's no expiry date for these orders.
well, I mean, if they don't go into place, well, then then they never went into it never took effect. They were struck down by some court. All of them are going to be challenged. All of these organizations, ACLU and Catholic Catholic Charities and other organizations, NAACP and others, will be bringing cases against the government for these unconstitutional laws. So some of them may never get implemented because there's ongoing litigation, and this is one of the things that happened with some of Trump's laws. They were in the mix. They were in the court and going through the court system. And when the new administration came in, they didn't fund it. They just left it, and the case just basically died. So this is another way that those laws are getting struck down.
Do you see this new climate having any impact on Caribbean citizens, or not even Caribbean, not only Caribbean, but citizens from other countries who may be illegal, sending back monies, we call it remittances from abroad, to the countries? So
Well,
example,
I mean, that's
you got it.
yeah. You were giving me an example.
No, I was saying, for example, Jamaica, Grenada, all of these countries in the Caribbean, remittances from abroad, people sending monies back, sending back goods and so on, make up a significant part of our GDP, with GNP. Do you see it being affected? Because I suspect you have to use the official system, the banks and other facilities, official facilities to transfer these monies. Do you see that being affected? Because I don't know, they have to give away the status or create a record by doing that.
Well, that would be multifactorial. I mean, it would depend on who's sending it back, who's sending back this remittance, and it's also going to depend on what kind of economy we're dealing with. If it's an economy that's not really robust and not increasing people's ability to save any money, then yeah, it's going to be less money for these people to send back home. If they're having issues with their jobs, I mean, it also is going to depend on, like I said, who's sending the money back. Is it someone with a legal status or someone who doesn't have a legal status? If it's someone without a legal status, well, they may be finding it very difficult to survive themselves, much less to send money back home.
Yeah.
Things that they would ordinarily do, business, activity that they would ordinarily engage in, they may say they can't be doing that right now. The jobs that they had where they were able to work and they were not detected because they didn't have the full authority to work, that they have lost that. So because ICE having raids in those kinds of areas. So if they're going to be dealing with stuff like that, they're not going to be having the extra money to send any money back home. So those are kind of anticipated consequences of the way that immigration is being enforced at this time.
The government of Grenada, through our minister, recently said that there was an official request from the Trump administration for Grenada to receive deportees, people deported from the US, who are non-Grenadians from other countries. And I understand that other countries have received the same requests. Would someone in the US who is about to be deported to a country that they don't belong to, what kind of rights would such a person have? What kind of challenge you see being bumped into that practice?
Well, the person, okay, the person who would be deported back to those countries that is not their country of origin, basically that would be under some international law, yes, under some immigration law, but again, these things that the Trump administration's doing is straining the legal system in all different directions, and all of these things, in order to, to stop them, you have to do it through filing, lawsuits, to stop these kinds of things from happening. Now, since the government is the one who is housing the person in detention, the government is absorbing whatever amount of financial burden. So in order to cut that cost off, they are trying to remove these people to a country that would take them where they could be safe in that particular country. Now, having said that, their original country, for whatever reason, may be unwilling to take them back. And now, where else can they send them? So if a country like Grenada, and whatever the deal may be, if he's going to give Grenada money or whatever kind of deal they're going to broker, the government of Grenada will have to decide, are they going to accept these deportees who are non-Grenadian, wherever they may be from. And you have to also consider, for the Grenadian government, these individuals that are being deported now to Grenada, how are they going to cause disruption in the Grenadian community? Because they may not be Grenadians and they may not be conforming to the community norms. So all of these issues, will be addressed either in the media, in legislation, or however else, these issues would have to be addressed, because Trump would basically be bullying some of these smaller countries, maybe threatening them to cut off support or whatever else, just so that they take on those deportees so he could get them out of the country and, count another deportation.
Simeon, do you have any questions specifically now?
Yeah, basically, I want some clarification. Say it quickly. First thing, I think Ottley was saying, for asylum seekers, detention capacity is being increased. Now, what are the new detention capacities that have been constructed? The second one was for Tyron. He said the civil rights groups could file lawsuits. What can be the results of the lawsuits? And the third thing, in terms of Elon Musk, it seems like Elon Musk has the last say on what policies of the government should employ rather than Donald Trump. I want him to comment on that. And then the fourth thing is, what is the status of US aid, which has been providing a lot of assistance worldwide to countries as Grenada and elsewhere? So these are the four clarifications I'm seeking.
Okay, well, your first question was related to, let me just hear that one again.
Asylum seekers.
Asylum seekers, yeah.
What are the new detention capacities that have been constructed? Because you said new detention capacities is being increased. Where? And what are the new ones constructed?
Okay, well, I can't speak on that because these are part of his policies. These things are unfolding right now. but these are things that are known to have to be done. He has a limited amount of deportation detention centers available. Okay, so if you're talking mass deportation and you want to use expedited type of removal like this, you're going to need detention centers available to detain these immigrants. You have quotas and so forth and so on. You know, as things are building up, everything has to build up and everything has to be prepared so that as you roll out your aggressive policies and you start detaining people, you have places to detain them. So those things will have to be done, but we'll have to see how it's going to be done.
Yeah, I know that someone was saying that they were hoping to use Guantanamo Bay in Cuba to, be houses to hold on another 40,000 detainees. So.
Well, yeah, they tried to use Guantanamo, but all of that is fraught with litigation.
Oh, okay.
And they're looking at is it going to be a humane place to have people stay? These are detainees. These are not prisoners of war or something like that. So it has, a lot of problems and litigation and everything else. That's just how Trump's doing it. If because of the litigation, maybe the situation, the judge, or whatever, bad decisions can be made and Trump's policy could go into effect. But they're going to be challenged on every front. Now, for your second question, that one related to, let's hear that one again.
Yeah, in terms of lawsuits, filing lawsuits after, by civil rights groups, if the person is kicked out of the US, what can be some of the results of the
before they kicked out? I think, yeah.
Well,
it's a major battlefield, the law courts. That's what's being said, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really say what the outcome is going to be and so on. I mean, for some of these things, if they're really like the Birthright Citizenship Act and with that executive order, I mean, there's so much principles of law there that would have to be disregarded that you don't expect for the courts to grant that. They have already blocked it. You see what I'm saying? So if an individual has a particular case, it's a lot of factors that's going to, determine if that's going to be a good outcome or a bad one. It depends how complicated their case is and all sorts of other things that, to try to address that particular type of question, it would be very hard. You have to go back and look at cases and see, okay, X amount of people filed for green cards and they denied, now we have a record, they denied X amount and the reason why and so forth and so on. So then you could see what the Trump administration is saying. Like, some of the organizations, they've been able to gather some data to show like Trump is talking about priority for deportation, okay, and criminal and this, that, and the other. But when you look at the data, half of the people that are slated for deportation are not criminals. So they're talking one thing, but in practice it's something different. So it's very hard to be able to say and predict how things are going to actually be. It needs constant monitoring and data collection and analysis to really decipher what they're saying on one hand and what they're actually doing on the other hand.
Okay. What's about Elon Musk now? He seemed to be the one that calling the shots.
Well, I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, there's a lot of issues. Yeah, there are issues. There are issues that we have to see how they're going to play out. Okay, the thing is to be able to spot these issues and be able to continuously observe them and to see what direction they're going. Okay, like I said before, Elon Musk wants to have H-1B visas available for smart people. Okay, others from the Trump camp do not want that. Okay, all right. Elon Musk wants to control certain things where government spending is concerned, and some of Trump cabinet members don't agree with Elon Musk. Okay, so you have these types of rifts, and the things that they're doing are unprecedented. We've never seen such things before. And how this is going to work now, Elon Musk is in a new government branch, and I don't know how he's being regulated. He wasn't confirmed by the Senate. He wasn't elected, and there's all sorts of cases for the things that he's doing that the government and others are saying he doesn't have the power to do because he wasn't confirmed by the Senate. And for him to do these things without that is wrong. And how those are going to play out is hard to say. But those are things that, if you are aware of them and you see certain things heading in a particular direction, you might be able to make sense of it if you have like the backdrop and, you know, the background information to be able to assess the particular situation.
Final one, US aid, status of US aid.
The status of U.S. Well,
Aid.
I mean, yeah, but just not that. I mean, other parts of the government as well.
Yeah, but I think his focus is that the reason for that is Caribbean countries in terms of aid and assistance. A lot of it comes through USA, so I think that's the interest on that there. But we know it's affected us.
Well, listen, they're looking to cut off aid, and they said that from the get-go that they're going to cut aid to certain countries and programs and everything else. And basically, that's what he's been doing. So,
But
you know,
USAID is an agency.
what's that?
USAID is an agency that operates worldwide.
Yeah, but he's wanting to stop all of that foreign aid.
So I guess it's closed down then.
Yeah, that's what he wants to do. But some of these things were already approved. They were already, you know, designated to whatever country, and he's just blocking it, you know, and he's just stopping it. And the thing is, does he have the power to do so? So when that's going to be resolved, you know, may take some time. It could take years.
Yes. Okay. Specifically on the issue of immigration policies, do you think, I agree with you, there are some certain cases like the birth rights one, that's open and shut, but on others, how hopeful are you that the many legal challenges being mounted would be able to put a damper on the what could be for us the war immigrants? There's one view that Trump is aware, and his government, they are aware that they cannot achieve what they are seeking to achieve in any substantial way. But it's all about politics, because they know there will be challenges in the courts, they know that there are administrative problems, they know there are a lot of difficulties. But a lot of it is politics for their own base and so on. It's in that context I'm asking the question.
Well, that would be a difficult question to answer. I mean, as we were talking about earlier, with the rift inside his the White House, you know, his supporters and so on, and all the politics that are going on, he might need to change and shift. So it's going to be hard at this point, so early out, to be able to predict how things are going to, unfold. And so some of these things we really have to wait. We can't, speculate as to how it's going to be down the line right now, given how the policies are so broad and so aggressive. So some of them may get struck down. Some of them may not be able to be implemented. I mean, we're talking some serious kinds of issues here where the Attorney General are and Trump the Trump supporters and Trump himself would like to see that the sanctuary cities and states lose federal funding. Now, these are different approaches to get the states to also contribute to enforcing immigration laws. And
sanctuary cities are what?
Sanctuary cities are like California, New York, Illinois, and other countries that, they tend to not want to disclose like motor vehicle information about aliens and to share information with the government for prosecution of aliens and things like that. So the government is threatening, the federal government is threatening states and cities to not provide them with federal aid.
Okay, so we just have a few more minutes. At this point, I just want to recognize the sponsors of the program once more. Jail Professional Solutions, JMFM out of Canada, and Grenada Technical and Allied Workers Union.
Attention all workers, your health and safety at work are critical. At Grenada Technical and Allied Workers Union, we are dedicated to ensuring you have a safe and secure work environment. If you encounter unsafe conditions or are involved in an accident, take immediate actions. Report it to the company, your shop steward, and make sure it reaches your union. Your health and safety is a priority, and a strong union means a strong voice for your rights. Don't wait. Address concerns right away and protect your well-being. For a safer workplace and a better quality of life, stand with the Grenada Technical and Allied Workers Union. Together, we can create a safer, healthier work environment for everyone.
Okay, welcome back. Simeon, do you have any closing question for Mr. Ottley?
Not really, just to thank him very much. I think he has been very clear and precise and has given us a lot of food for thought. I really appreciate it. Initially, we were not hearing clearly, but once we begin to hear him clearly, I think he has done a tremendous job. Thank you so much, sir.
Oh, thank you so much, Mr. Collins.
Yes, and your final comments, Mr. Ottley?
Well, listen, I am practicing law here in Brooklyn, New York at the Ottley Law Firm. You can visit us on our website, the OttleyLawFirm.com. And, if you have any relatives or friends in the Brooklyn area that need any immigration assistance, feel free to contact us. And, I do these types of programs because I want to get information out to the immigrant community so that they know that they can get the help that they need, the information they need, so that they don't have to feel completely helpless and scared and frustrated and everything else, and they could give one another support and take the necessary steps to avoid getting arrested or getting deported because of this Trump's deportation machine. I thank you for having me, and I wish everyone the best, and I'm very happy and honored to be able to contribute to your program.
Yes, normally we take comments. There haven't been many comments, but there were some comments on your point of view with regarding the vaccine. Some people seem disappointed by your viewpoint. That's a separate matter. One person is contesting that RFK is not against the vaccines. He said all his 6 children are vaccinated. That's what the person is saying. I don't know. And the person is also saying Trump was the president during Operation Warp Speed. I think that was the accelerated program to produce a COVID-19 vaccine. So the person is saying that. We don't have any comments with regard to the immigration issue, and I take that to mean that you are very, very clear on that aspect of the presentation tonight. I want to really thank you for coming on and being providing some very, very useful and helpful information with precision and quite clear. Even though initially we had some difficulties, I think we overcame that in the end. So I want to really thank you for coming on, and hopefully sometime in the future again as things unfold, because as you correctly say, the policies are broad. One will have to see how they work out in practice. There are lots of challenges. I know this is an issue of great interest to West Indians, and that's the point of view that we promote here, as you have realized. So maybe sometime in the future, 6 months, 9 months, before, after, I hope you will agree to return. So thank you very, very much for agreeing, and good night.
Okay, well, I'll be happy to come back again as things unfold to further inform the audience. Unfortunately, I'm sorry about the responses that I gave for the vaccine injury. I don't think that coincided with the vaccine issues that were being dealt with in that case in St. Vincent. But as I said, I'm not practicing Vincentian law, so I really probably couldn't speak to the Vincentian aspect of it. And maybe Jomo should have been here to address that for you. He might have been a better source to establish what the situation actually dealt with.
Yes. So again, thank you, and thank you to all. Yes, thank you to all the viewers. Thank you to all those following this program. Good night. We'll be back next week. Thank you.
Again.
All right.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye now.